Frank Vaughan, we share the same name and apparently the same political passions because you're an ardent supporter of the People's Party of Canada since day one with your YouTube channel, and I think people can just look up Frank Vaughan on YouTube, and we'll put a link in the description, but you have a rational, reasoned, well-researched argument why people should support the People's Party of Canada and Maxime Bernier, and you're very passionate about it too. You're a farmer and in Ontario, and you now have announced your candidacy for the People's Party of Canada, and what is your riding?
Northumberland-Peterborough South.
Yeah. So why go from Conservative to People's Party? Now I can understand before there was a People's Party you had to choose something, but what is it about the People's Party that distinguishes itself from the Conservative Party that caught your eye?
First and foremost, it's real. It's not scripted, it's not fake. It has a bunch of policies and platform positions that it will actually follow through on. I have faith in that. The other thing that's very important to me is I had a conversation with Elections Canada, and I asked them, because I'm very concerned. I have my public presence, I've got a YouTube channel, social media presence and stuff, and I don't want to run afoul of any laws. I got a clean criminal record. I don't want to jeopardize that. So I phoned them up and I said, what are the rules here? Because I can take donations for my channel, which pays for either the channel upgrade or it pays for my well-being, and I can take donations for the campaign once it kicks off, or for the EDA and everything. But I said, what are the rules surrounding what it is I can say? Like, where is the line? And the guy said to me, what do you mean? And I said, where's the line between what I can say as a candidate and what I can say as a citizen? He's like, ask your political party. We have nothing to do with what you can say. That shocked me, and it shocked me because if you're running for any of the other parties, you have to be so careful about what you say. Mm-hmm. And everything is directed from on high. So there's a platform at the PPC that I support. It's common sense. It has conservative aspects. It has more libertarian aspects. It has liberal aspects. It's not a pure libertarian thing where you're just trying to abandon all government. It's very realistic. But I also get to have my opinions about the political culture separate from that, because I do have strong opinions. There's things that I have opinions about that I don't necessarily want to change the law on. I want to change the culture on. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to have a discussion. And culture is far more powerful than the law. So the PPC just gives me a vehicle to do that in politics. And that's, at any other time, you pick a party, you're a member, you vote, you make the best bet. Sometimes, I've showed up in a suit before and I've refused my ballot. Nobody cares. But you don't know, it's very difficult to figure out what direction you take. But there's no doubt with the PPC for me that this is where I want to be. This is the type of politics I want. And I said in my announcement video that the idea of Parliament was as an august body of independent minds trying to come together and make solutions. We used to form our cabinets and our governments based on not party lines, but who could best do the job. And it's turned into this partisan political party run. The whip has more power than anybody else. And at the same time, we have this mentality in Canada like we're a two-party system, and we're not. Parliament was meant to thrive on diversity of ideas, not on limitation down to two narrow points of views confined to one ideological range, and everything outside of that can't even be discussed. I think the PPC philosophy would go a long way to restoring what Parliament's supposed to be, mm-hmm. without changing anything. You don't have to open the Constitution or anything. You just have to go in there with a mindset, and you change the way it functions.
Is there any particular policy or platform plank in the Liberal government or even the Conservative government that you particularly dislike, and the PPC's policy would replace that? What would be rank highest on that?
They all cater to the United Nations, and the United Nations is a sovereignty-destroying organization. I feel like the direction the country takes internationally, but also internally, is directed more from New York and the United Nations than it is from Ottawa or the provinces. And I've rejected that for a long time, and I've never had a place in Canadian political culture, because even as a Conservative member, there's no place for somebody who doesn't like the UN. It was Harper who signed Agenda 2030. They were part of the negotiations that led to the Paris Agreement, which Trudeau signed, which is going to dictate how a large part of our economy works. It's going to export wealth from Canada and give it to the third world. And basically all four of the parties out there, the Greens, the NDP, the Liberals, and the Conservatives, all fight about implementation, not whether or not we should even try. And the PPC firmly rejects that. And I believe it. And that's the other thing about the PPC. The PPC is held together by word, people giving their words. If Max obtained government and broke his word, we would all bolt in a heartbeat. That's the only glue that holds this thing together, is that platform and that we will deliver it. So number one is reclaiming Canadian sovereignty from I want to put Canada first. And I know it's a trite phrase, but it really symbolizes and captures the whole thing. The people who are paying for it, which is the federal government and the provincial governments, should come first regardless of their skin color, their religion, or anything.
I'll ask you the same question that we just got the opportunity to ask Maxime Bernier, and that is, to preface, Justin Trudeau has said that Canada has no core values and that it's the first post-national state. And I asked Maxime, what do you think distinguishes Canadian culture and values from the rest of the nations out there, which makes Canada a nation and distinct?
We are, first and foremost, we're part of the family of Western value systems. I think Canada has the potential to be a hybrid between European democracy and American republicanism. We've completely lost our way on that. Our system of government, in my mind, is very limited. You get one vote every 4 years. One party obtains absolute power. The Senate being appointed doesn't really sit well with me. That's my personal opinion. One of the things I'd like to fight for is electoral reform. I think one of the most disappointing things about the Trudeau government is that the promise of electoral reform, even however limited, was broken as soon as he took office. He just basically came out and said, Canadians aren't ready. I think that's a lie. We're ready. Let's have a conversation about how we can increase regional representation through the Senate. That's my personal opinion. I'd like to discuss that more, but I think Canada has the potential to bridge between the flaws of European-style democracy and the flaws of American republicanism on paper, and we could do that here.
Mm-hmm. So take what's best from any other system,
sure,
and implement it, rather than what effectively seems to be a complete and systematic destruction of the values under Justin Trudeau and his globalist cabal of Laurentian elites. Now, I just had a discussion with Salim Mansour, a candidate as well for the PPC, and his biggest issue and his biggest concern is what he called the elephant in the room, the globalist, jihadist movement that is taking over the world. Does that rank high in your issues?
I think we have to have a discussion about what Islamic extremism means, and we have to stop allowing the media party, from framing all discussion of Islamic, whether it's the words being bandied around, or entryism, extremism, all this stuff, labeling that as bigoted or somehow racist, even though Islam's not a race, it's a set of ideas. We know from people who have lived in those cultures that there is a problem, especially in the Middle East. These are highly misogynist cultures, and a lot of the people who immigrate to Canada want to escape that and want to be left alone and want to embrace Canadian values. And Salim is a perfect example of that. And we have other ones in Canada. We have Tariq Fatah, who's a very outspoken person, and he represents a group, I believe he established, of Muslims looking for reform. It's like 50,000 strong. There's a lot of secular Muslims out there. So when you talk about, I think people need to, if they're going to use the word Islamist, they need to explain the difference. An Islamist is not the same as a Muslim. They're two different terms, and I think the media likes to put it all together and depend on your ignorance to not understand what people are talking about. There's value systems in place in Saudi Arabia, in Yemen, in Iran, that are anathema to Canadian values. And that's a discussion that we should be having.
Well, from Just Right Media, we wish you success in the upcoming election, and thank you for running.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this presentation, visit justrightmedia.org, where you can support us via PayPal, and where you will find more programming that's not right-wing, it's just right.